What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Thank you so much for clicking on this video. My name is Adrian, and guys, it is speculation season once again for Halloween Horror Nights. So every year right around the springtime, we get to speculating on what we think is going to appear at this year's Halloween Horror Nights. And every year, Halloween Horror Nights fans from all over the world look forward to one thing around springtime, and that is the speculation map from none other than HHN Nightmares. And guys, we have a few juicy updates from HHN Nightmares themselves, and I am very excited to talk about this, guys. So earlier today on April 14th, we got our second speculation map for Halloween Horror Nights 2022, and there is a lot of juicy stuff in here that I cannot wait to talk about. However, guys, before we get into the gory details of the second version of the speculation map, let's go ahead and take a quick look at how we got here and take a peek at the first speculation map of the season. So the very first speculation map was released by HHN Nightmares on March 16th of this year, and it had a lot of very interesting things. We're not going to spend too much time on this 1.0 version because there is a lot on this 1.0 version that has actually changed between then and the release of the 2.0 version today. So starting from the very front of the park and going in a clockwise motion, we have Universal Monsters The Mummy versus Wolfman. Universal Monsters has been a very popular property over the last couple of years at Halloween Horror Nights, putting out some of the best houses of the year. So it's really no surprise that we're seeing it come back yet again for a third time. I will never forget my first run through of Universal Monsters back in 2019. I dropped to the floor when Frankenstein came popping out from behind a curtain just when we thought the haunted house was over. Coda was behind me and so was her sister, and they were cracking up and they were in tears laughing. I dropped to the floor and basically crawled out of that house on my hands and knees, and I am not even exaggerating. So I am very happy to see Universal Monsters possibly making another return at this year's event. I can imagine this haunted house being something very similar to when we had Alien vs Predator. We're just going to be bombarded on all sides with either Wolfman or the Mummy just coming at us from either side, or you can also compare this house to Freddy vs Jason, where at the end we don't know exactly who's going to win and it can possibly cycle out throughout the night. Moving on up a little bit further to the haunted house that is going to possibly be located at the Jimmy Fallon entrance, we have Seaside Village. This is an original property haunted house that we don't really know too much about, and we really have no information at all about it. This is one of the haunted houses that has changed between the version 1 and the version 2 map, so not really too much to talk about here. Let's go ahead and move forward. Another haunted house that was listed in the version 1 map that is unfortunately not in the version 2 map is Fear Street. Now, Fear Street is a 3-part horror movie trilogy on Netflix, and I highly recommend checking it out if you haven't already. The entire story is very complicated but also very simplistic, and it's so interesting because it time travels all over the place. It was just a very interesting story and something that I would have loved to see translated into a haunted house. I definitely think that they could have gotten away with it at this year's Halloween Horror Nights event, but it looks like it might not happen according to HHN Nightmares, so we're just going to go ahead and carry on. The next haunted house that we have on the version 1 list that unfortunately didn't make it to the version 2 list is The Last of Us. Now, this really took me by surprise. It has been a hot minute since Halloween Horror Nights has delved into video game properties. I do recall the last video game property that we saw at Halloween Horror Nights was Silent Hill, and that was, I don't know, way back when. I'll put that down over here when Silent Hill made an appearance at Halloween Horror Nights. I really enjoyed the video game adaptations that Universal Studios did between Resident Evil a couple years before Silent Hill and obviously Silent Hill. So I would have loved to have seen them do The Last of Us. Oh, obviously it is a zombie-based horror survival game, and I definitely think that it had a lot of possibility. I'm definitely a big zombies fan myself as someone who plays a lot of Call of Duty Zombies, so it would have been really cool to see. But unfortunately, we did see The Last of Us get the axe between this speculation map and now, so we're just going to go ahead and carry on. Yet another haunted house that has seen the axe between the first speculation map and this one is the Curse of Pandoras Box. Now, this is a haunted house that has appeared at Universal Studios Hollywood Halloween Horror Nights over the last couple years, and it has been a very popular haunted house. Now, while I haven't personally been to Universal Studios Hollywood Hollywood to experience their Halloween Horror Nights, I have seen a lot of walkthrough videos of the Curse of Pandoras Box, and it looks like a very solid house with some great set design and some great costumes, and I'm really sad that we could not get it over here at Universal Studios Florida, but again, it's all speculation. It could happen, it could not happen. Moving on further down the list, we have El Chupacabra, which is going to be another original haunted house. The closest thing that I can think of to compare El Chupacabra to is La Llorona. We actually had La Llorona at Universal Studios Hollywood and then brought over here to Universal Studios Florida for a year, and that was a very solid haunted house. That was very creepy. Obviously, La Llorona is a Hispanic urban legend that is told by parents to their kids to kind of scare them into really behaving, and it was brought to life and translated really well at Universal Studios Hollywood and Universal Studios in Florida for Halloween Horror Nights. So if you guys want to get kind of a sense of what you can expect for El Chupacabra, go ahead and check out some POV videos from those haunted house walkthroughs at Universal Studios Hollywood and in Florida. When it comes to El Chupacabra, I can imagine that we are going to be getting a lot of puppets in this haunted house because El Chupacabra is presented more often than not as a dog or a jackal type creature. So just picture American Werewolf in London. Those puppets that we had with those wolves basically translated into a different form of El Chupacabra. Another haunted house listed here that survived the first version on into the second version is Underground Creatures. Now, I don't exactly know what to expect with this house. I don't exactly know what to speculate on with this haunted house. It could easily be zombies because zombies are technically underground creatures. They are risen from the dead and they come to walk the earth. Or we could easily get something like massive bugs. I can imagine a bug theme haunted house, or who knows, it could be an Alaskan bullworm haunted house. We don't exactly know for sure, but it's fun to think about. Next up on the list is an intellectual property haunted house that did not make the cut over to the second version is the Evil Dead. Now, Evil Dead is credited as the original Cabin in the Woods horror movie that came out in 1981 starring Bruce Campbell, not to be confused with Ash versus the Evil Dead. But anyways, this isn't the first time that we have seen the Evil Dead at Universal Studios Halloween Horror Nights. I do believe we had an Evil Dead haunted house, which was based on the 2013 remake. So I would have been very interested to see a take on the original movie at Halloween Horror Nights, but however, it doesn't look like we are going to be getting that this year, as it did not survive into the version 2 haunted house map. The second to last house that we have on our speculation map that actually did make it into the version 2 speculation map is Halloween. Now, obviously, this is going to be based around the very popular Halloween horror movie franchise starring Michael Myers. We don't exactly know if this haunted house is going to be based around the 2021 Halloween movie called Halloween Kills, or if it's going to be based around the movie that's coming out this year, which is called Halloween Ends. Either way, this property did survive the version 1 speculation map into the version 2, so it's looking pretty likely that we may get a Halloween haunted house. And last but not least, guys, this is another property that has survived the speculation map version 1 and moved on into the version 2, and that is The Weeknd. The surprise haunted house of the year is, of all things, The Weeknd. That's definitely a curveball that we were not expecting. I don't think really anyone was expecting The Weeknd to make an appearance at Halloween Horror Nights. It's not the first time that Halloween Horror Nights has collaborated with musicians or bands. I think the most recent one was Alice Cooper. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments section. I'm just thinking back to other haunted houses that I've done, and I think the Alice Cooper haunted house is the most recent one that we've seen with a haunted house based entirely around a band or a musician. Now, what's funny is that even though The Weeknd is the most curveball haunted house that we could have ever been thrown, I really think that this is one of the only haunted houses that we have concrete evidence that it's actually going to happen. Because the very first day that this speculation map came out on March 16th, The Weeknd actually quote tweeted HN Nightmares, because HN Nightmares said, "But The Weeknd is in horror," and has a bunch of screenshots from some of their music videos that show horrifying visuals, and it looks like The Weeknd could very well fit into Halloween Horror Nights. And The Weeknd actually quote tweeted it with a knife, blood, and some bulging eye emojis. So it looks like The Weeknd might actually be coming to Halloween Horror Nights. Again, we don't have any official confirmation yet, but this is a property that survived the version 1 speculation map all the way into the version 2, and it has been spoken about by The Weeknd themselves. They actually quote tweeted it, and it has thrown fuel into the fire to everybody thinking that The Weeknd is actually going to be appearing at this year's Halloween Horror Nights event. Alright guys, now it is time to get into the version 2 speculation map, and this one is a lot more juicy and it definitely has fans really excited for this year's event. Now once again, I just want to say that these are speculation maps. Nothing here is set in stone, but as we get closer and closer to the event, what we see on the speculation maps become more and more likely to be what we will actually see at this year's event. Starting at the very front of the park, we have the possible grand return of Stranger Things. Now with the Stranger Things haunted house back in 2019 covering seasons 2 and 3, I definitely think that it's a no-brainer that we can expect the Stranger Things haunted house in 2022 to cover season 4. Now while I personally never thought that the Stranger Things haunted houses were the scariest haunted houses of the event, as a fan of the show I definitely think that it translated really well into haunted houses, and I definitely can't wait to see what they do with it this year if it actually makes an appearance. The next haunted house up on our list that is possibly going to be making an appearance at Halloween Horror Nights 22 is Dead Man's Wharf, which is going to be an original haunted house based off of the scare zone that actually appeared back in 2016. If we pull up the Halloween Horror Nights wiki, Dead Man's Wharf was a scare zone that appeared in the San Francisco area back in 2016, and this was the official story for the scare zone. On October 30th, 1931, the fishing vessel Annabelle Lee, captained by Arthur Wilson, left this harbor and would never return. That evening, a thick fog blanketed the area, preventing any attempt at search and rescue. Once the weather cleared, a search yielded no results. Certain that the vessel and the crew were lost forever, the town decided to leave the wharf empty as a memorial. As years passed, the dock gained the nickname Dead Man's Wharf. Some of the most notable instances of Halloween Horror Nights taking a scare zone idea and expanding it into a haunted house would be Killer Clowns from Outer Space and Bayou of Blood. Both of those properties started off as scare zones and were so popular that they expanded them into full-blown haunted houses, so I'm very excited to see what they do with Dead Man's Wharf this year. Next up on our list of haunted houses for the version 2 speculation map is Bug House. It's an original property, definitely not something that we can speculate on too much other than we can expect to see a lot of bugs. I really don't know what else to say, but I'm just getting the heebie-jeebies and just thinking about what we could possibly see and hear in that house is just making my skin crawl. I just can't. I don't like bugs. I don't like spiders, and if I see a spider, I run the other way. I just can't, and I really hope that this haunted house doesn't come to fruition just for my own sanity. Next up, we have Universal Monsters, The Mummy vs. Wolfman. We already spoke about that earlier. It survived the version 1 speculation map into the version 2, and I'm very excited to see Universal Monsters make another possible return to Halloween Horror Nights. Another surviving property that we have is El Chupacabra from the version 1 speculation map over to the version 2. We already spoke about this. Think about La Llorona and translate it into werewolves. Another haunted house that we have on the version 2 speculation map that is brand new is the Horrors of Blumhouse version 3, basically covering The Black Phone and Freaky. Now, The Black Phone is a relatively new movie that just recently came out, so there's not too much that I know about it. However, the movie Freaky is basically a horror twist on the Freaky Friday movie, where two people basically switch bodies, where a young girl switches bodies with a serial killer, and they chase each other and try and kill each other, and it's just a whole mess. A very interesting movie, definitely worth looking up and checking out if you have the time. However, historically in the past, the Horrors of Blumhouse haunted houses haven't really done too well, haven't exactly been the most scary, or haven't really been the most cohesive when it comes to storytelling and the flow of everything, so take that as you will. Next up on the list is another returning property, which is Underground Creatures. We already spoke about it. There's not too much to speculate about, not too much to talk about. We're just gonna go ahead and move on. Next up on the list, brand spanking new, and guys, this definitely has Halloween Horror Nights fans from last year very excited at the possibility. The Wicked Growth 2, a sequel house to the very popular Wicked Growth haunted house, which, if I recall correctly, won House of the Year last year, and all because of the mascot, the unofficial mascot of the haunted house, Lil Boo. In the facade of the haunted house of Wicked Growth last year, there was a particular pumpkin that people just latched onto, and everyone and their grandmothers fell in love with, and they named him Little Boo. and he had his own Twitter account, and people made merchandise for him. It was a whole big thing. So it's really no surprise that the Wicked Growth is going to possibly be making another appearance at this year's Halloween Horror Nights event in a more plussed state. So I'm very excited for it. I loved the Wicked Growth last year. It definitely deserved to win House of the Year, but I definitely think that this is more fan service for the HHN Lil Boo community, but to each their own. I'll let people have their fun, even though I didn't particularly see the hype around it. The next returning property that we have is Halloween. We already spoke about that. Moving on, and The Weeknd is on the version 2 map, and it is the one haunted house that we basically have solid concrete evidence that is going to be happening this year. Now, while I've personally never been to Halloween Horror Nights over in Hollywood, I'm not going to leave you guys high and dry. We have another speculation map for you guys over there in Hollywood as well. We're just going to be quickly going over it because I'm not exactly one to talk about Halloween Horror Nights Hollywood. There are plenty of other channels based in California that can talk about it a lot more, but in case you guys are curious what's going on in Hollywood, possibly coming for the year of 2022, we have Candyman, The Evil Dead, La Llorona, a Scarecrow haunted house, an American Werewolf in London, Universal Monsters, The Mummy vs. Wolfman, The Weeknd, Killer Clowns from Outer Space 2, and the Terror Tram. Oh my gosh, they definitely have a lot of haunted houses that are possibly going to be coming this year. What is that? 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. That is 9 haunted houses. Now, you guys over in Hollywood, correct me if I'm wrong, but is this the most haunted houses that you've ever had? Now, let me ask you this. Do you guys also count Terror Tram as a haunted house, or do you guys count that as an experience? Because HN Nightmares seems to count Terror Tram as a haunted house, because you do take the tram out onto the back lot and then you get kicked off and you basically walk through the entire back lot. Well, not the entire back lot, but you guys know what I mean. You walk through a section of the back lot that has basically been turned into a haunted house. So you guys let me know, do you guys count that as a haunted house? And is this the most number of haunted houses that you've ever had at the event? But anyways, guys, that is going to do it for today's speculation coverage video. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on everything that you saw in today's video down in the comments section below. What properties are you excited for? What properties are you least excited about and you just want to be off of the speculation map? Once again, everything is up in the air. Nothing has been announced yet, even though we're in the middle of April and we haven't gotten a single announcement yet from Halloween Horror Nights. It's taken a while. It's taken a while to get any solid haunted house announcements for this year's event, but as soon as we get any announcements, I will be back making another video updating you guys on any news and information that we get about this year's Halloween Horror Nights event. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I really appreciate it. If you did, leave a like on the video and make sure you drop a comment down below to let me know what you guys thought of today's video. If you are new around here and you want to see more Halloween Horror Nights content now and in the very near future, definitely make sure you are subscribed to the channel. I have a lot of Halloween Horror Nights videos on the channel. I'll leave a link to the playlist down in the description below in case you guys want to experience the other Halloween Horror Nights events that we have visited in years past. We have a lot of vlogs from Universal Studios Halloween Horror Nights, and every once in a while I myself like to go back and rewatch those vlogs, just kind of relive the haunted memories of those previous years. Once again, guys, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you're all having a wonderful day, morning, afternoon, evening, and I'll see you guys in the next video.